For the past few years, it seems like Etsy is kind of becoming a necessary evil. At least in my neck of the woods online, it seems that the AI hullabaloo is causing a lot of people to boycott Etsy. I even saw people boycotting small businesses altogether for just having an Etsy shop. So even though you could just go to their website and buy something and not buy on Etsy, they're like, nope, not gonna support you at all because you're on Etsy, which, just my opinion, but respectfully, go touch grass because that's insane. I use YouTube Premium so I don't see ads here, but on Hulu I was seeing Etsy's running ads explicitly saying their sellers are humans. Like they were showing a person making some stuff and they're like, hey so-and-so, are you a human? Like what the heck? It's like Wendy's back in the day if they decided to run an ad that said we don't have fingers in our chili. I've been gone for a while, so let's just have a chat about the recent issues with Etsy and what's going on with my shop in particular, and the future of my YouTube endeavors, because after this video they are changing. And I probably decided to put something like I'm done with Etsy in the title or thumbnail, which is not clickbait. Probably not for the reason that you think. Now it's been a while since I posted a video here, and you know that I like to call out things that I think are baloney. This might be my last opportunity to do that in regards to Etsy and Etsy sellers because of things I'll explain later on. But I would just like to clear the air and get this off of my chest. I have to fight the urge to reply to these using my business account. And I don't know if you use the Threads app or not, you know, the one that's supposed to compete with Twitter/X, that app. But my God, my home feed on that app is just people either asking really dumb questions. Now I understand that we all don't have the same frame of reference, but I'm talking like how to change a light bulb kind of dumb, like people should know, but they're just asking because they want people to reply. That's called engagement farming. So it's either that kind of stuff or people just telling straight up lies about Etsy fees. And I've noticed this kind of thing in the comments of my previous videos as well. People are like, oh, Etsy takes all your money. It's one thing to disagree with the amount of fees they charge, which by the way are not a secret, nor are they just random amounts just to spite you in particular, nor do I personally think that they're egregious when you consider the alternatives. But it's another thing to purposefully misrepresent your sales numbers just to make Etsy look like the bad guy in that regard. When it's, how do I say this nicely? Your fault. You have to include fees in the price that you charge for things. When you structure your product prices correctly and you account for the fees, you are not losing money on fees. That is a cost of business. That is not a loss. And actually, when you file your taxes, those fees are considered marketing expenses. So when you list 20 items and then you make a sale for $10 and then you pay $3 for the shipping for that $10 sale, yeah, it's gonna look like Etsy paid you like 50 cents. I don't know the exact math, but it's gonna look like they took all of your money. They even have a place where you can see where your money is going. If you go to the shop manager and go to finances and then payment account, it's right there. Every penny and what it's for is listed there. It's not gonna say we're charging 20% because F you. No. In the time between now and when I last posted, I've spent quite a bit of time offline, and it's really, it's people posting lies or things that are wrong on purpose. It's a lot. Once you stop being exposed to that, you realize it a bit more. And fun fact, if you have lower price items like stickers or pins or patches or whatever, cards, stuff that's like less than $10. I did the math on this before. I don't know if I put it in a specific video, but just because of the fees and like some of them being a flat like 20 cents or the 35 or whatever cents for the payment fee, it's going to end up being a higher percentage of your total sale than if you were to sell something for like $20, for example. And they're acting like the offline ads fees on every sale. It's not. I have had almost 3,500 sales and I have gotten maybe 5 orders total with the offsite ads. And I am at the point where I can't turn it off. It's not that big of a deal. I'm gonna stop this tangent, but here's a universal piece of business advice that I think is safe to apply to everyone, which is rare. But you have to know what your expenses and profit margins are before you start selling anything. Always be aware of where your money is going, because the people that understand where the money is coming from and where it's going are way better off than the greatest artisans in the world in terms of a business. I can't say the new issues with Etsy have affected me personally, but I also can't say that I'm not concerned, because I am. Now, I have talked about the major issues with Etsy and like suspending shops and the payment reserve and all that stuff before, but there is something new. New to me. I don't know if this has been around, but you can let me know if you've heard of it. As they said they were going to, finally they've started cracking down on items that are not handmade. And I mean items that you say are handmade but really aren't. And that doesn't apply to like vintage and craft supplies, which are allowed and don't have to be handmade, but you just have to, you know, represent your products accurately if they're handmade or not. And I've said this many times before, but handmade sellers have to now more than ever adapt to proving that their items are handmade by a real person. And I have said that since before AI really became a problem. Like, it existed, but not in the minds of most people at that point. And it also helps to make a personal connection, because people like psychologically respond to listing photos that have a human in them somewhere, or like photos of a person actually making the stuff. And people that browse YouTube are more likely to click on a thumbnail with a face in it versus one that doesn't have a face. So you want to show that your items are handmade, both for the sake of your customers and wanting to buy from a person, and so you don't get in trouble with Etsy. The best way to do this is to put photos of it like in progress. So if you laser engrave, you could show a photo of the thing in the middle of being engraved. I would put that in your shop story section in your Etsy shop and all of your listings. I mean, don't go and crazy and do all of your listings right now, because people do that if they hear me say something like this, but just in the back of your mind going forward, and especially in your social media and wherever else you represent your products, like in your email marketing and stuff like that. Later on in this video, I'm going to talk about something that I am doing right now, and I'm going to stop doing that, having to explain everything. So we were talking about Etsy taking down stuff that's not handmade. So here's where this policy becomes a problem. Copycats. See, if you weren't aware, it's already a big problem that companies on platforms like Temu, AliExpress, and even Shein will steal images from small businesses and produce a very cheap, poor quality version of that item, if they produce the item at all. And they'll either sell it on those platforms using the stolen images as the product image, or scam websites that advertise frequently on Facebook will sell products using those images and just never send you the product and disappear with your credit card information. Now, it's been the case for a long time that people will buy items that are mass-produced on websites like AliExpress or Alibaba, which Alibaba is a legitimate manufacturer and supplier marketplace platform thing, and you can order like custom-made stuff. So it's just like the middleman between a business and a supplier. So I'm not talking about Alibaba, but if you didn't design it or customize it in some way, it's not considered handmade. But I'm talking about the opposite to that. So let's say that I made a brand new item. I put it in my Etsy shop. I made the listings, took the photos, and all that stuff. And then somebody decides to copy and paste my photos off of Etsy and sell those products on Temu or AliExpress or Shein or wherever. And that is mostly going to be unbeknownst to me unless somebody else happens to come across it and tell me. Now, I'm not sure on the logistics of how Etsy finds out about this. I would have to imagine that it is AI that is doing reverse image searches, either getting reports from users that an item is not handmade, or they just randomly scrub through listing photos and search for them elsewhere on the internet, which I imagine takes up a lot of bandwidth and power, like computing power, to do that on a large scale. Anyways, but they will see that you have listed this item on Etsy, and it's also available on this website that people are known to order things from and resell on Etsy despite not being handmade. And it's like, oh, yeah, you can't do that, so we're taking your listing down. And I saw one instance where they sent the person a link to either the Temu or AliExpress or wherever it was listed and said that they got it from there, so therefore it's not handmade. But the person was like, but they stole my photos. And that's like a double whammy, because also I think that person that I saw talk about this on Threads, there were people replying to their thread saying that they ordered the item from whatever website that was and didn't realize that it was actually handmade and stolen from them. That's like a double whammy for a seller. And by the way, since we were talking about your images earlier, like proving that you're a human, watermark those puppies as well, because that'll make it a little bit easier to prove that it's yours and put it in a place that they can't just crop out, okay? But as we know, it's like pulling teeth to speak to a human at hashtag #KeepCommerceHuman Etsy Incorporated. But I have not heard a single instance of someone's shop being suspended or their listing taken down or whatever where they resolved the issue that Etsy told them about, if they even could figure out what the issue was in the first place, and it didn't immediately happen again. Like it pretty much always, from what I have seen, happens again after they resolve it the first time. So whatever that back-end system is doing is real messed up. If you're a regular viewer of my channel, you're probably familiar with the channel called Talk Shop. His name is Vlad. He is well into the top 1% of Etsy sellers. I believe his main shop is or was #1 in its category, and he just keeps getting suspended over and over for the same issue that has been resolved. It was like $7 or something on an Etsy shop that was already closed that he owed and didn't know that he owed, but he paid it and it still keeps getting suspended. I'm just baffled that there is not some kind of like fast pass or dedicated support for the upper echelon of Etsy sellers, because if their shops get suspended, that's lost revenue for Etsy, because like the top 1% are making, I don't even know the numbers, but a lot more than the rest of us combined. But maybe, putting my conspiracy theory hat on, maybe that's for a reason. Like they know those people aren't gonna leave because they make so much money on Etsy. So yeah, I don't want that to happen to me or you or anybody. And one thing that I do agree with that a lot of people don't, probably the people that cry about it on threads, is that you have to pay a one-time fee to open an Etsy shop now. But I know that is going to reduce the amount of scammers or people that just try to cheat the system and do things that are against the terms of service on purpose, because they're not going to want to pay that fee every time that they go through trying to make a new shop. And what do we do about all of this? The thing is, the short-term answer for sellers is not to just go to Shopify or to just quit Etsy, as many armchair business experts will cry in the comments. There is no solution to this that can be summed up using the word just. And shocker, everyone's different, but welcome to the internet. Yes, you should absolutely diversify your income, but that takes time. Shopify is not an apples to apples alternative to Etsy, point blank, period. If you're not having success on Etsy and you don't already have your own audience and you go to Shopify, you're not going to get anywhere, I promise. It's also not cheaper than Etsy if you're not driving significant sales on your own, because if you're making like 5 sales a month and you go to Shopify, the fees that you would have paid for those 5 or so sales on Etsy, the fee total is going to be less than you would have to pay Shopify per month to have the shop. And that's granted that you can figure out how to set up and maintain and optimize a Shopify store, because using just one of those theme templates is not enough. There's a lot of stuff you have to know on the back end and how to do the SEO and like correct image sizes and all of that. I've dabbled in doing HTML and building the occasional website on WordPress and stuff since freaking Neopets in the early 2000s. And it still took me weeks to get my Shopify set up. And it takes me about an entire day per month just to maintain it and keep it up to date. I'm telling you, Etsy is the easy option. So if that's not working, then... But as I'm sure you know, it's not exactly easy. Maybe simpler is the better word. Despite the metaphorical pitchforks that have been coming at Etsy for a while now, there is one thing I can sum up using the word just. There's just not a similar alternative. Many have tried and are trying right now, but it's going to take years to build up to being a household name like Etsy is. The only place that's remotely close, especially in terms of traffic, is Amazon Handmade, which is not as easy to start up or do as Etsy. Now, I don't know enough about Amazon Handmade to really have much of an opinion or to be confident in recommending that you sell there. But to the Amazon people, Etsy is built off of Amazon's tech. So they're getting your money one way or another. But one thing's for certain, a lot of small and micro businesses will have to pivot soon or they won't survive. And mine included. I know this is the internet and everything exists in a time bubble. We tend to think that things should never change or will never change. It's human nature to look externally and find someone or something else to blame, when really the cause of whatever problem we're having is ourselves. Whether that's something we're doing or something we're not doing. Now, earlier this year, I took some time off to move house. This is relevant, I promise. And perhaps some anecdotal evidence to some strategies that I've talked about before. This was toward the end of March, and most of April. I originally planned to take 3 weeks off. That didn't happen because, well, I don't know if you've seen the housing market lately, but it wasn't too easy to find a place. Prior to this was pretty normal for me in terms of sales. I've been consistently updating my Etsy listings, shipping orders on time as usual, and I had some fairly recent new listings like earlier in the year. I was posting on social media somewhat regularly. I just recently had a viral video in October, and I noticed the usual slowdown for December, January, and February, at least for my niche. Those are the months that I tend to have lower sales. 3 weeks was a bit too long to extend my processing time, so I decided to put my Etsy shop on vacation mode and put everything in Shopify as sold out so that people could use my back in stock notification. And I put a banner up on the Shopify to say that I was moving and to use the back in stock notification, or to sign up for my newsletter and they'd be notified when things were back in stock. Another thing I did on Etsy was I deactivated all of my listings because vacation mode doesn't stop your listings from renewing. So that way I wasn't going to pay renewal fees while I was gone and wasting that time not having the things available for people to buy. And I would have had to pay those fees out of pocket because I wasn't having any sales to cover them. I maybe could have just done that and not went on vacation mode, but I am unsure how that would have affected things because people at least could see that I was on vacation mode and not just all my listings disappeared. Because you cannot see the dang shop announcement on the mobile app, and the vast majority of traffic comes from the app. But deactivating all the listings is coming to bite me in the butt in about a month because now all the listings that I reactivated when I came back are expiring again at the same time. And Etsy has said that using vacation mode does negatively affect your search ranking and your reach. And that's because you just fall behind the other listings that are getting traction while you're gone, kind of like the tortoise and the hare. Something else that happened during the move, or rather didn't happen, was posting on social media and sending emails. I didn't have time to make a backlog of content, which I probably should have in the first place. And all of my stuff was in either the back of a moving truck or in a storage unit for almost a month. And it seemed pointless to make content with no product anywhere in the videos and then like get followers from the semi-unrelated content, and that would just make things worse. So I just didn't bother posting anything, which was a big but unavoidable mistake. Like, hey, here's the stuff that I sell, but you can't buy it right now. Since I've been back, I've been regularly updating listings. I've launched 3 new collections, 2 for brand new products and 1 for new colors and prints of existing best-selling products that I have. I posted to social media weekly and basically have nothing to show for it. The video for one of the new collections went semi-viral. I was actually modeling the pieces, which were one of a kind, and I got some really good feedback on the pieces and for the sentiment behind it, and even good feedback on the pricing, which I was worried about, as most people are, because it was a bit higher than my usual price point, but I sold 0 as a result of that video. That was over 2 months ago, and I still have 3 of the original 8 pieces left. I just launched 4 more and sold 3 of those, so that's a pretty good sell-through rate overall. So maybe I just need to make more. I've had questions here about my viral moments and how it affects my business to have a lot of followers. And no, followers do not equal sales. They also do not even guarantee or suggest that you're going to get more views per video in the future. I'm talking about like TikTok and Instagram. They actually kind of hurt my social media reach afterwards because people follow me for that specific video, or they were bots follow me for the viral video. So if the algorithm sends them a new one, they may not interact, or they may just never see it. My label printer is possessed. Part of the problem here was where I chose to list the items. So I have stewed over this issue for years. I've talked about it in vlogs for years now. Whether to link my Etsy in addition to Shopify in my social media bios versus just Shopify. So I used to use Linktree for this. Now I do Link Pop because it is integrated with Shopify, and I can see where the traffic is coming from a little bit better. Even if I state in the video or wherever I advertise the products that they're only available on my website, people will still visit Etsy because it's familiar. And I had experimented with not naming Etsy in the link. So you can make a title for the link, and I just put shop my website here, And then I put outside the US and Canada shop here because I could not ship outside the US and Canada on my website at the time. So I didn't even say that it was Etsy at this link, and people were still going to it. And you can tell if the traffic is international or not, and it was not. So I decided to keep Etsy linked just for that, and I feel a little bit better now with the share and save thing. Share and save only works if they click on that link, and a lot of people will go to the app and type in my shop name. I have only gotten one order ever with the share and save link since it started. Despite, I don't know, thousands of clicks, I'll get maybe a handful of international orders per year, like total, and I might get one order to Canada every 2 or 3 months on my website. So the collection that went semi-viral, I only launched it on my website. It was one-of-a-kind pieces, and I didn't really want to go through the Etsy listing process because it was a waste of time. They were already on my website, and most of my traffic is to the States anyways. But after several comments asking for international shipping, which at the time I couldn't do on my website, I went ahead and put them on Etsy anyways, and I made sure to go back and respond to those comments like right away, like, hey, I put them on my Etsy, so they're available. Probably unsurprisingly, I have not to this day gotten a single order for those through Etsy. But still, there were hundreds of views from people just browsing my Etsy shop and not buying because the products weren't there at that time, which tanked my conversion rate. All of that has resulted in single-digit orders on Etsy for the past 4 months. I mean single digit as in less than 10 orders per month. And Shopify was not much better. Thankfully, the area that we moved to is much better in terms of my target audience and deeper pockets here as well. So I did 2 craft shows in July, and I have a few more on the books for fall. The first one I did, it was lower cost. I knew that it probably wasn't going to have a lot of traffic, and I was right. I would be surprised if more than 100 people came to that one. But other vendors I talked to said that it usually was better than that. Maybe that was just an off weekend and it was really freaking hot. The second show was a bit better. There was a lot more traffic. It was in a shopping area instead of, well, the first one was in a shopping area also, but it was like off in a lawn. People didn't have to walk by my booth to get to Chipotle or whatever, you know. Overall profit, that's going to be sales minus the booth fee and the material costs for the items sold. I'm not getting into overhead and all that stuff, but just taking my sales minus the booth fee and the item cost, I made $5 at the first one and about $100 at the second one, which got rained out thankfully at the last hour, so it didn't ruin too much. My tent leaked. Apparently those things are not waterproof forever. The more you know, I've already sprayed it with waterproofer for next time. I decided not to do any this month in August because of back to school shopping. People are running around doing that, and they spend all their money on summer vacation, and the DC area turns into a swamp in August. I thought Georgia was bad for mosquitoes, but it rains mosquitoes for like a week straight here, and I can't leave my house. In the 3 years since I've been full-time with my business, it's been up and down, but never down for this long. I know I'm not alone in this either. So many people I know that have their own business are either having to close their business entirely or get like a supplemental day job. I started writing these notes for this video at the beginning of August, and I said if this month isn't better, I may be one of them. It's now like the 3rd week of August, and yeah, it's not getting any better. I haven't had a sale in 6 days, but I also have not posted anything. So again, coming back around, probably my fault. A lot of stuff has happened the past 2 weeks or so, and it's just like my husband goes out of town and everything falls apart. Like if you're new here, hi, I have ADHD and I take medication for it, and it took me 8 days to get a refill of my medication. I'm not a Karen. I don't complain about things like that, like customer service and whatnot, but holy moly, it should not have taken 8 days. Like what if I needed heart medicine or something like that and I had to go 8 days without it? Like what the fuck? You know how you can't call your doctor's office anymore? I had to hunt down a phone number to talk to someone who was in the vicinity of my doctor's office. Anyways, that situation is resolved. I am switching doctors. And funny enough, I got paid out my AdSense from this channel last month, which is kind of the reason, like I won't say the entire reason that I'm making this video, but it gave me the kick in the pants to get this going. They only pay out if your account is over $100, and it had been a while because I hadn't posted here in a while, and I might even lose monetization because the last time I had a lot of watch hours was last August. It's like on a rolling basis, and I think it's gonna drop off at the end of August. Hopefully not. So I took a look at the financials for this side of the business and decided to cancel everything. The email service, the domain, all of that stuff. It wasn't that much, but really I wasn't doing anything with it. And I think it's okay to simplify. Email list, the shop reviews, I was trying to do a blog, you know, all the YouTuber business stuff that you're supposed to do. I really don't know how people keep up with this, let alone make content for all of that stuff. But something keeps pulling me back to YouTube. I've had several ventures with it over the past 12 or so years, mostly as a hobby or an outlet for my interests, and I actually never got paid for it until I got monetized on this channel. And ironically, despite being incredibly introverted, I found that verbally processing information really helps me make decisions. There have been numerous occasions where even though I haven't been posting anything, I will sit down and record a video and talk through a difficult decision, and I will reach a solution by the end of it and then just delete the footage. It's almost like I'm pretending that I'm giving you advice about a problem, which is somehow easier than giving myself advice. At the same time, I had to figure out where I stand on giving you advice, literally. And this channel has, up to this point, partially been a vlog, partially been an Etsy guide, which left me in another difficult situation with a decision to make that I am verbally processing now. Ooh, inception. The elephant in the room is that everyone's sales are down, including mine. I have a platform in place to make money off of people who are struggling with their businesses, so I thought this would be the perfect time to launch a course. I'm kidding, oh my god. But seriously, if I was gonna make a course announcement, I definitely would not have said jack squat about my sales being bad for months. So here's why I'm done with coaching, or rather why I'm not returning to it. Number one, it consumes my soul. Talking about Etsy or Shopify or the business side of handmade is something I know about. It's like a mechanic talking about cars or a nurse talking about healthcare. It's my literal job. Except I cannot handle the weight of someone else's desperation, or at least what I perceive to be desperation. I know I have never forced anybody to buy a shop review from me or to sit down and watch my videos. Everybody can make their own decisions about what they spend their time and money on, but I absolutely put too much pressure on myself to help and to give as much information as I possibly can, like I just proved at the beginning of this video, as if your success is my responsibility. Or rather, your failure is my responsibility if I try to help you and it doesn't work. It's just not sustainable. There's not a single video or shop review that didn't take at least 3 hours. Videos take more than 3 hours, and I never made enough in AdSense to cover that. Some videos actually took over 8 hours between scripting, researching, filming, and editing. Hopefully this isn't one of those. I mean, spending a lot of time doing something you're passionate about and helping people for free is one thing, but it is detrimental when it changes from a passion to an obligation. And that has nothing to do with you as the viewer. That is something with me having too much empathy, I'll say. Number two, as I mentioned earlier about managing multiple platforms, I made this too complicated. You are not the only one who has fallen victim to those how to make money online articles and videos. I love the idea of running a successful blog, and depending on the niche, the content quality, and a bunch of other stuff, of course, there is a lot of money to be made running an informational blog. I saw some of the blogs that I visited regularly and also ones that I found just from searching for them, ones that had disclosed their blog's revenue, and y'all, I ain't particularly motivated by money. I have to be interested in what I'm doing, but we're talking like 6 figures a month. They're laying out step by step what they did, how often they post, what settings to use for WordPress. Basically a blueprint, which is what a lot of viewers want from my channel and others, so I'm sure those posts alone made them a good chunk of cheese. Granted, they do say it's a grind for a while, and same thing with Etsy, and they were paying out the wazoo for hosting and sales funnels and writers and editors, but I was like, I can do this from home. And it's all things I know how to do and that I have done before, like posting on YouTube, and I was great at writing essays in college. There's thousands of topics I could post about, and they even said you can and should recycle old content. But like, just stop for a second and say it with me. It's not that easy. And sure, I could simplify my operation here, but like most things, there's more to the story. Number three, what contributes to me feeling like I will never be able to achieve actually helping people is this developing culture of what I've seen referred to as learned helplessness. Now, I'm turning 30 next year, And YouTube tells me that most of you are at least close to my age or older, and not many younger than like 25. But I believe my generation was the last to actually learn and understand how to research effectively, but I think this kind of thing happens to anyone. We can get information instantly, and we know this. What we forget is that we can't instantly get experience. Information is not enough. As I said in point number 2, I know how to do a lot of that stuff, but have I done it enough, have enough experience to actually be proficient? Of course not. Otherwise, I'd be making 6 figures a month. You might call this wanting to be spoon-fed, or mommy and daddy did everything for you, now you're in college and can't wash your own clothes, or the just do it for me type of situation. Now, there is a time and a place, such as if you're hiring someone to do a task for you, or if you're going to some kind of formal training program, but I can't explain how to get Etsy views on your shop in particular in a single comment, or something like how to start sewing your own clothes. There are sources that will give you that information in a short piece of content in like 59 seconds, but those are meant to give you the basics, and you need to either deduce the rest of the steps yourself and do some more research, or buy their course or something. In my vision for the future of my entrepreneurial journey, being self-employed and whatnot, I see Etsy tapering off, if not closing soon. Like my shop, not Etsy itself. I think they're going to be around for a little while. But that's not entirely in favor of my Shopify either. Should I be posting this and counting my chickens before they hatch? Who knows? But I need to process this before it goes poof from my brain. I have toiled over this since I started Type 9 Studio like 3 or so years ago. So what to do with it, how to change up my primary business, because I have a lot of ideas and ambitions, but I don't have a lot of room up here for maintenance of those ideas and ambitions. There are 2 things I know for sure. I want to sew and I want to do YouTube. Well, 3. I hate short form content. Until now, I haven't posted much here about sewing, aside from using some sped up footage in my videos while I talked about Etsy or other business stuff. That's because I wanted to keep my niche pretty solid and make sure my videos appeal to all of my viewers, or in other words, appease the algorithm. And I was horrified that if I posted how I make something, that people will come out of the woodwork to copy me or make it themselves and not buy from me, which is going to happen anyways. And I'm not even like the first person to do what I'm doing either. So going forward, I would like to avoid the familiar stress of feeling like I have to stop everything and help everyone, because I literally can't. So will the sewing be focused on tutorials? Probably not. I'll save this conversation for a future video, or perhaps I'll just up and start doing the things that I want to do and I don't actually have to explain. But that will be on this channel, mostly because it's already monetized and there is some overlap with the audience. I know quite a few people that comment regularly that sew and would probably be interested in it. But back to Etsy, traffic is down, sales are down, it's not a great time. There were mainly 2 reasons that I kept my shop open, and remember that I have Shopify as well. The first reason is that I use it to market my Shopify. Etsy still has a pretty big audience despite the recent issues, and I can funnel repeat buyers over to my Shopify through my listing descriptions, my order confirmation message, and even my packing slips that I put in my orders. And fortunately, Aweber, the email platform that I used to use for Etsy, is no longer able to automatically send people opt-in request emails. Etsy put a stop to that at the beginning of this year, but I do get signups from the link that I put in my listings with a discount code incentive, so it's doing something. So people that buy or just browse my Etsy will be notified, or at least hopefully see that I have my own website where I do pay less overall in fees once I reach a certain threshold of sales, and I am the administrator, so the only one that can shut me down is me. So if my Etsy gets zapped, I'm not out of luck. And the second reason is actually gone, so that was for international customers. I now have Shopify's managed markets, which is a bit of a process to set up and you have to go through a review period, but I can take international orders and they will collect and remit VAT or duties, so my customers aren't responsible for them and I won't get in trouble for not collecting it. And the shipping prices for that are decent as well, at least on par with the Pirate Ship Simple Export, which I use on Etsy. There is a mysterious third reason, I suppose. Earlier I was talking about how people kept going to my Etsy instead of my website. I know a lot of people, and I am one of them, that has been burned by a small business website, whether it was a customer service issue or the website was compromised or it was a straight up scam and there was no product. So this is mostly why I'm keeping Etsy at the moment. People can see that I've had almost 3,500 sales and well over $1,000 1,000 reviews, which is one of my next maintenance items for Shopify, to get a review app and transfer those from Etsy. There are a few more facets of the business that I am changing around, like more one-of-a-kind items that I don't want to have to list and SEO every single one. I have at least 3 craft shows coming up starting next month, and lots of opportunities for more markets year round. But I think overall it's going to be better for me creatively as well as business-wise to do YouTube videos about what I'm making, whether that's for myself or to sell, because people want to connect with the person that makes their stuff. I know I'm not alone in preferring long form content versus like Reels and TikToks. Even though that is online, I don't consider that to be social media, because I feel like that should be what social media is about, like sharing what you're doing, what you're interested in, versus feeling like you have to get engagement and views and sales from it. And I spend so much time looking at stuff that other people have made, or that like trying to find something that I want to make, and then I spend no time actually making it. Like, do you see there's even more over there that you can't see, and bins in another room. I do need to reorganize this room, or at least rearrange it, because I feel like it's not quite conducive to production. If you have watched this far, thank you for sticking around with me, and I can assume that you might be one of the people that sticks around for the other videos. I don't know at this point if I'm going to private or unlist my old videos, or if I'm going to leave them up and then just like update the description to say I don't do this anymore. The content is not useless, and some of those videos are still climbing in views, which is insane to me. Like, some of them have like 20,000 or something. The name of the channel will probably change. I don't know what it's going to be, because I want to change my actual like other business name as well. I don't know if this channel is going to be just something basic like Abby Sews or whatever. Probably not that, but you know, or if it's going to be the same as my business name, I don't know. I wanted to change the business name earlier this year, but I couldn't because I needed to sign up for these craft shows, and I did not have time to do like a rebrand and get new business cards and new everything. Before then, I didn't want to confuse people. So I think maybe before market season in 2025, I'll do that. But for this channel and the direction, I think the vibe is going to be like I'm your grandma and we're sewing together. So I think that will be interesting. Definitely going to take a lot of self-control on my part to not do these ranty type of things. But I hope you are doing well, and your shop, if you have one, is doing okay. And if it's not, what do you have to lose by changing things up a little bit? Try something different, try something new while it's a little bit slow, and see what happens. So I've done that a few times, and sometimes it works, or at least keeps you from bashing your head on the wall, which is good to not do. I know a lot of YouTubers say this, but I really mean it. I really appreciate if you have watched this entire thing, or even any of my other videos, and keep sticking around. Reading comments has not been the best thing for me mentally for a really long time, but I'm hoping to cultivate a more positive, wholesome, I guess you could say, energy with this next phase. So I am really looking forward to that. But that's all for today. So I will see you in the next video, whenever that's going to be and whatever it's going to be about.